Alright, so it is now considerably later in the day, about 4 hours later, in fact. We have finished the wart process. So in the big gray container, kind of like we saw before, I'm at funny angles, so my hands are weird. Anyways, is the completed warp. It's kind of like steeped tea that's been sitting around and steeping for a long, long time with some hops and some grain and whatnot. The yellow fire hosey looking thing is a wart cooler. The warts are liquid goo. The wart cooler cools the wart down so that we don't have to wait hours upon end waiting for this to get cool enough to handle. Basically, the gray hose is connected to an outdoor water faucet. It's on the bottom, and the cold water is kind of going counter-current to the wart. And the green tube is for dumpage. I can't get that angle. But once you get past the wart cooler, you get to the big glass jar that is the primary fermenter. Once all the wart is in there, we move on to the next step. Well, while I'm standing here recording, there are some benefits for moderate alcohol consumption. Moderate in this definition is no more than 1 serving of alcohol a day for the ladies, no more than 1 to 2 servings of alcohol a day for the guys. The forms of alcohol that have the most nutritional value, and this is kind of a relative term when we get down to it, would be beer, especially beers that have a lot of hops in it, and red wines. Some compounds found in hops and some compounds known as tannins, found especially in red wines, have been connected to reducing cardiovascular disease in small doses, which means you can't exactly sit down and drink a gallon of beer in a sitting and say, oh, I'm being healthy, I'm making sure to get enough cardiovascular fighting compounds. Definition of 1 serving of alcohol would be 5 ounces of wine, a 12-ounce serving of beer, or a 1-ounce serving of hard liquor. Hard liquor would be, in this case, defined at about 100 proof. When you get higher in the proof, the serving size goes down appropriately. Like I said, a stouter beer or red wine has some compounds that can help with cardiovascular disease. White wines have less tannins, but there's still some in there. The hard stuff, it's just hooch and water. That's it. So, if you are going to imbibe and want to act like it's something other than just empty calories, and yes, the hard stuff is just empty calories, make an appropriate choice. There are certain categories of folks that should not have any alcohol at all. First one are those that abuse alcohol. Yes, have fun trying to tell an alcoholic they're not allowed to have alcohol because they're not allowed to have alcohol. That's because alcohol in large doses can lead to a number of very, very nasty things, most of which involved having a destroyed liver. You can argue with the numbers, but I tend to lump the liver as the 4th most important organ in your body, right after brain, heart, and lungs. And your liver can process 1 serving of alcohol an hour. If you ever go above that, and there are types of parties and types of bars out there where that's the entire goal, you will start to suffer from the effects of alcohol poisoning. The lowest levels is what we like to call the buzz. Alcohol is a universal central nervous system depressant. That means it shuts down your brain. But it goes in a pretty specific order. The first part of your brain that shuts down is your frontal lobe, and that was me slapping my forehead. The frontal lobe is where things like decision-making and judgment occur. So, some people with certain anxiety disorders tend to self-medicate with alcohol. to be able to handle the outside world. The member of the Monty Python troupe that is currently dead suffered from that, and he went to work drunk every day. And so you can argue, hey, it's shutting down the part of the brain that would make them anxious, but judgment's a big thing. There are plenty of examples of people that are slightly buzzed making bad decisions. Let's see, there's a country song that goes along the lines of, I went to bed at 2 with a 10 and woke up at 10 with a 2. That's kind of the mild, jokey one. Getting into a car and then expecting to handle the car, that's a bigger one. So on, so forth. Second area of the brain that shuts down is the motor coordination areas. So by the time you get enough alcohol for that, you're kind of in the stumbling drunk mode. That's also where kind of slurred speech would happen. So slurring your speech and kind of stumbling around. That's kind of the next level. Level after that would be a sensory. Vision will start to get blurred. You might stop being able to hear color. You might stop being able to hear some sounds. When I said hear color, I mean see color. Smells might start getting a little weird. And if you go further than that, you will pass out. If you had a serving of alcohol right before passing out, you will proceed past pass out to death by alcohol poisoning. That means you shut down the part of your brain that tells your lungs to breathe, and you stop breathing. When you stop breathing, brain suffers brain death after about 10 minutes of no oxygen. So that's kind of the deal. Like I said, liver can handle 1 serving of alcohol an hour. So if you're going to imbibe at a party, here's the rules we always say. 1, watch what you're drinking. Be moderate in it. Serving up, pace yourself to where you're not drinking more than 1 serving of alcohol an hour. Second thing, the hangover. That is the mild kind of after effect of taking in too much alcohol. Alcohol is a diuretic. That means it makes you pee more. Just saying it very, very simply. So a hangover is caused by dehydration and electrolyte loss from too much urine output. So if you pace your drinks, and in between drinks you take a nice glass of water, you will minimize your chances of suffering through the hangover at the end. Alright, you're going to have to forgive me if it's a little wobbly. I'm doing this as a hand, but we just kind of finished the last little steps. What we did is we got nice, relatively cool wort. Again, funny angles means funny hand shapes. We added the yeast, and then topped it off with this little bad boy right here. What this does is it serves as kind of a one-way valve. As there's a little bit of air room up here, so the first thing the yeast is going to do is do some aerobic metabolism because there's oxygen available. Once all the oxygen in this airspace has been spent, the yeast will go into ethanol fermentation to turn the remaining sugar in our wort, some of that into alcohol. This bad boy right here serves as a one-way valve. A byproduct of the alcohol fermentation is CO2. The CO2 can bubble out the water like that, come straight up and out. Water can't get in because of the, oxygen can't get in because of the water there. And what you do is you shove this thing in a nice cool space, and after a certain period of time, you're going to transfer the pre-beer, let's call it, from the primary fermenter into a secondary fermenter. Again, we went flying. This is a different style of beer here. we were making a Belgian wheat, was that one. This is more of an imperial stout, and so it is much, much darker. The time that it spends in the primary fermenter, the secondary fermenter, and then either bottles or in a keg, depending on how much labor you want to put in before you can drink it, depends on the type of beer. So there you go, and you can see those little bubbles right there. That's the CO2 I was talking about. And then you know when you're done when doing a specific gravity test. I'm not gonna mess about talking with it. The thing is, if you followed all the food safety rules, this will be nice and not covered in gray or mold or anything like that. And if you did it wrong, it's gray and moldy and you won't drink it. One of the nice things about doing this at home, if you are a beer connoisseur, is the end product is unpasteurized. If you did things right, there's no opportunity for anything other than the yeast we added to actually live inside this liquid goo of deliciousness, according to microbacteria. So you don't actually need to pasteurize. Pasteurization kills some of the nuances of whatever you pasteurize. This is especially so with the flash pasteurization that most corporate food interests are going to do. So if you ever listen to a European go, American milk is terrible, or American beer is terrible, it's because they're used to the unpasteurized stuff. And it is that noticeable, the difference. So, this is about it.